This is The Ramblings. This is why I think outsourcing is so important, especially going forward in 2024. Look at how many companies are doing layoffs, how hard it is to hire employees, how expensive the market is, how much you're paying for the benefits on employees, how hard it is for you to now find employees. Think about how much employees are costing nowadays. And the biggest issue is that we're not properly adjusting. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to be biased as someone that owns a virtual assistant business, but you don't even have to necessarily use offsource. One of the issues is that a lot of business owners are scared. It's new. It's still extremely new working with the virtual assistant, especially trying to get a premium virtual assistant. You might have listened to someone that was on a podcast, or you went on YouTube and you're like, oh, what is this virtual assistant thing? Especially because of the pandemic. And you were like, oh, I'm going to hire a virtual assistant. You thought it was going to be easy. And then you entered and did it and then found it's just as hard and complicated sometimes as actually hiring a regular employee. And so you're thinking to yourself, why would I hire someone from somewhere else when I can hire someone local? One, there's 3, 4 different categories of virtual assistants, according to how I would put it. You have your very most basic virtual assistants, and these are going to be what I call your internet virtual assistants. Your internet virtual assistants are going to be the people that your gurus, your advisors, all of those business coaches on TikTok, whenever you hear someone on social media talk about, oh, go get a virtual assistant, these are virtual assistants they're talking about. You can go on Fiverr, you can go on Upwork and find them, you can go all over, but they don't cost a lot. Somewhere between $3 to $5. I've seen virtual assistants as low as even 50 cents. But you also have to think about quality and what kind of headaches are you willing to deal with as an entrepreneur. And this is not like a shade or anything, but think about why we as consumers, when we deal with any of our services in terms of tech support and customer service, when you deal with someone that is an outsourced customer service person where there's a very difficult and large language barrier, it just ruins your customer service experience. There's just no other way around it. It ruins your customer service experience. And so working with these kind of virtual assistants may or may not be for you. There's a lot of wear and tear and caution that needs to be taken when you deal with a virtual assistant at that kind of point. But again, there's a solution for every pain point and whatever problem that you're trying to solve. You just want to be careful about the quality of work that you're paying for. The next kind of virtual assistant we're going to talk about is your more executive level. So I want to swing the pendulum to the exact opposite end, right? Let's look at your super executive assistant. These are going to be your people that are most likely stateside. They've probably been in corporate for 10, 15 years. They have heavy loads of experience. However, they're charging an extreme premium price, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. They're specializing in their niche. So let's say they're an accounting virtual assistant, you're an accounting firm, you want to outsource some bookkeeping for extra support. You're going to pay excess premium for that kind of virtual assistant. These are going to be your coding virtual assistants. These are going to be your super high level executives that are working specifically with CEOs on a very bare minimum, giving them like, hey, we're only providing one thing and one thing only. Now, while that can be effective and still much more cost effective than a traditional W-2 employee, it still comes at a very large premium. And if you're a new business owner, it would be very hard to justify shelling out $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, and $7,000 a month for a virtual assistant, especially when you're not necessarily acclimated with their level of work. The trust just is not there. Then you have the virtual assistants that fall somewhere in between. Offsource falls somewhere in between. And I think this sweet spot is the biggest issue with the middle level virtual assistant. The pool is so large and the range is anything. I would say a premium virtual assistant is going to run you at minimum $25 an hour, regardless of where they are. Because listen, you can't necessarily associate the price of your virtual assistant because of where they're from. So if they're from India, or if they're from Eastern Europe, or if they're from Australia, if they're just not from, say, the US, you can't automatically assume and say, we're going to pay or expect to pay a lower price, because a lot of them are getting hit to their worth and what they should be charging, which is upwards of $25 per hour. Now, when you look at a company like Offsource, you're going to really see a big difference, because we try to offer what we call fractional employee time. Fractional employee time is how we're able to provide you with all of the services virtually that we can provide you for one low monthly price. So think about your virtual admin support, HR support, bookkeeping, social media, graphic design, web design, all of these different virtual services we're able to offer and provide at one low price. Think of it like this. If there was a lawyer and you had a question that needed to be answered, and this question could be answered in 15 minutes, do you think that the lawyer is going to charge you for only those 15 minutes? Or is he going to give you a minimum billable hour of just one billable hour, which is probably going to be somewhere around $500? Now, it would be okay if that $500 could be used in a better way, but you only are going to get that question answered for 15 minutes. What if you were able to use, say, multiple 15-minute segments or questions to have multiple questions answered? That is the same thing as what we do for fractional employee time. Just because a virtual assistant may not have the skill set to work on your particular task doesn't mean that we as the entire organization cannot get it done. There is a virtual assistant within the organization that would be able to handle your task and is able to assist and support your dedicated account manager, aka your virtual assistant, with making sure that you get the best support possible by still maintaining that one-stop shop support so that you can get your work done. Especially going forward in 2024, I really think that outsourcing is going to play just a very key role in how businesses are able to function, stay lean, and make sure that they're meeting not only revenue quotas, keeping profit quotas so that your overhead is as low as possible. The big reason Offsource is able to be that one-stop shop for business owners is because we don't provide you with just a singular virtual assistant and that's it. We don't match make you. We're not a market service like Fiverr or Upwork. We are the actual company that you hire. Again, going back to that example that I used with lawyers, imagine if that lawyer, it's a divorce lawyer, but there's a particular part that might require real estate law and real estate lawyer services. Just because that divorce lawyer doesn't know real estate law doesn't mean that they're going to go use an entirely different law firm just to work and use that case. No, that law firm has lawyers that are well-versed in real estate law that will support your lawyer with whatever is the case. So I think that's how I really like to establish what Offsource is. We are your virtual assistant firm. We provide you with a dedicated virtual assistant, aka your account manager. However, their primary goal is to facilitate the majority of your work through the virtual assistants that we have hired to work for Outsource. That not only allows for you to have a much more focused approach on the work that you are outsourcing to us and that we're going to be doing for you, but it also allows for all of the pieces to happen in a micro transactional way that keeps the price affordable. I think that's the best way to put it. It keeps the price affordable. Because even if you're not going to be outsourcing, I always at least recommend business owners upgrade their tech stack. A lot of business owners today don't even have a tech stack. So how are you getting your contracts to your employees? How are you getting contracts to future and potential clients? What are you doing for additional information? What does your website look like? How are you continuing to get the word out there? What are your processes inside of your business look like? Do you still have to look for contracts? Do you still have to look for paperwork every time you send something? Are you still thumbing through emails every single day, wasting hours inputting into your CRM? All of these things can be automated or done at least faster in some way. Now, I understand a lot of you can be scared, especially because if you're a legacy business owner, like you've been using this software, you've been using your process for years, for decades even. However, at some point, you're gonna have to switch. You have to switch from a BlackBerry to an iPhone. You have to switch from a pager to a BlackBerry. You have to switch from a house phone to an answering machine. All of these things were just changes. So you've been doing something and you found something that worked and it's been working for you for the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But at some point, someone like me, someone like the guy next door, if you're in a co-working space, someone down the hall is going to be using software like ChatGPT. They're going to be using software like Notion and Linktree and FlowPage and OneTap to make doing business faster. For example, a lot of business owners, especially business owners, aren't using Stripe, aren't using Square, or still do not have a thoroughbred invoicing and billing system. Every time, every month, you send out an invoice, it's always a hassle for every single client, for every single potential client. Getting a standard operating procedure over to that person or a work outline just takes too long. So do not get left behind from someone that has an automated process. Like I said, you don't even have to outsource. The outsourcing is something that if you're like, oh, hey, I'm at that point where we're automated, I'm still looking for ways to carve out my schedule, carve out time and make more money. Because let's get to the bottom of things. We are all for-profit businesses. Yes, some of you work in the nonprofit sector, but to be honest, we are all here trying to either make money or raise money. And we are all trying to keep expenses as low as possible. So if you're not outsourcing or if you're not improving your tech stack, you're losing time. And guess what? We all know time is money. Like you can either avoid it or you can lean into it. However, the future is going to come. And so for the business owners, the young people that are going to innovate, that they're going to do things how it's done in 2023, not even 2024 and 2025. If this is how business is being done in 2023, 2024, and 2025, why are you not doing business like that? Because it works. Still something that feels comfortable to you. If someone said that you could do something better, but it would mean that you had to do worse for 2 months, let's put it into perspective, right? Let's use the J curve because I understand a lot of you are afraid of the J curve and you don't even really realize it. The J curve is where you have a level of productivity that is here. You would like to reach a productivity level that is here. However, in order to bridge these two gaps, it's not a succinct straight line up. The reason is because when you implement a new software, implement a new procedure, a new system, whatever it is that you're trying to do, you're going to drop in productivity. Why? Because you're spending time figuring things out. You're spending time trying to implement this software, teach your employees and your other team members how to use this software. And so your productivity actually is going to drop. And a lot of business owners get scared, get wary, and get like that drop in productivity, which can temporarily lead to a drop in revenue, gross profit, whatever KPI that you're trying to measure. But it's going to increase once you get used to using that system software or whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether you're if you're outsourcing, if you are upgrading your tech stack, whatever it is that you're trying to do, you have that J curve effect that once you become proficient in using this new system, new software, new outsourcing method, new hiring method, you then will now increase your productivity to be at a higher rate. Because if you can do the exact same amount of work in less time, you have now increased your productivity. But it's going to take a little bit of hard work to get there. And sometimes that's a drop in productivity, efficiency, again, whatever KPIs you're measuring. And that's where business owners get scared. They're scared to have that drop. But improvement is on the other side. You have to make sacrifices. When you started your business, when you first got from 0 to 1, 0 to 10,000, whatever metric you're at, your very first baby steps in business, you didn't necessarily always know what you were doing. You had to figure it out. You had to pivot, make adjustments as needed, but you didn't immediately start just hitting it out the park. The reason is because you had to take what you knew, practice it, get better at it, hone those skills. And now that you were using that same time with not only an increased knowledge, but an increased applied knowledge, you are now able to take your productivity in your business to a new level. So at that higher point, in order to reach the next level again, you have to implement new business processes, new procedures, new systems, new softwares, so that you can use that same level of time, but have a greater level of output. And that's truly what outsourcing does. That's what offsource is meant for you to do, to use the exact same time that you're using right now, but have a much greater result.